I need you to understand something. Before I describe what is coming, before I tell you about the apology and the return and what the outcome of all of this is going to look like when it has fully arrived and settled into the new shape of your life and your connection, after everything that is about to happen, not all apologies are created equal. That is what I need you to understand first, because you have probably received apologies before in your life in various forms with various degrees of sincerity behind them and various degrees of actual reckoning with what was being apologized for. That ranged from genuine to performed to the specific category of apology that is primarily designed to relieve the person giving it of the discomfort of the guilt they are carrying, rather than to genuinely address what the apology is supposedly for. What is coming is none of those. Welcome, and let me tell you what the mother of all apologies actually looks like from the inside of the person preparing to offer it, and what it is going to mean when it arrives in your life, in the form it is taking. The person who is about to apologize to you has been doing something that most people never do. With the things they owe an apology for, they have been sitting with it fully, without flinching, without the protective rationalization that makes the thing you did more comfortable to live with by making it seem less significant or more understandable in context or partially someone else's responsibility rather than primarily yours. They have been looking at what they did and what it cost you directly, without the softening lens that most people apply when they are examining their own failures, because the direct looking is more uncomfortable than most people can sustain for very long without finding some way to make it less direct, less sharp, less fully illuminating of the actual impact of what was done on the actual person it was done to. This person has been sustaining the direct looking for long enough to arrive somewhere that most people never arrive in relation to the things they have done that hurt someone they actually care about. I want to describe where they have arrived because it is the foundation of the mother of all apologies, and you deserve to understand the foundation before the apology arrives so you can receive it from an informed place rather than only from the surface of what is being said without the depth of what is beneath it. They have arrived at full accountability, not partial accountability, not the version that acknowledges what is easy to acknowledge, while maintaining protective distance from what is harder to fully own. Full accountability, which means they know exactly what they did. They know exactly how it affected you. They know their role in producing the outcome that it produced without minimizing any of it through the convenient narratives that are always available. For people who want to carry their accountability more lightly than the actual weight of what they did would require them to carry, if they held it fully, they are holding it fully. And that full holding is what makes what is coming the mother of all apologies, rather than another iteration of the kind you may have received before that said the right words without the full weight behind them. That makes words mean what they are supposed to mean. I want to tell you what the apology is going to contain in the substance of it, because I think knowing in advance what is actually being offered will help you receive it in the most useful way, rather than being surprised by the depth of it in a way that produces a reaction. Before you have had time to actually receive what is being given, it is going to contain the naming, the specific naming of what was done without euphemism, without the careful reframing that makes the thing sound like something smaller or more ambiguous or more understandable in context than it actually was. Just the naming in the clear and direct form that says, I know what I did and I am willing to say it out loud to you without the protective softening. That would make it easier for me and less honest for you. It is going to contain the acknowledgement of impact, the recognition of what the thing that was named actually cost you in the specific and personal form of your experience of it, rather than the general form of acknowledging that it was bad without reference to how it was bad for you specifically, in the way it was in the context of your specific life and your specific feelings and your specific experience of the thing that was done. And it is going to contain something that most apologies do not contain. Even the genuine ones, which is the honest explanation, not the excuse, the explanation of what was happening in them at the time that produced the behavior that requires the apology. Not to excuse it, but to give you the full picture of why it happened, in the form it happened, at the time it happened, so that the thing is no longer a mystery to you, that you have been carrying without resolution as the unanswered why behind something that hurt you, that never fully made sense. The why is coming, finally, and the why is not what you thought it was, or at least not only what you thought it was. There is more to it, more that was happening in them than was visible to you at the time, and the more does not excuse what was done, but it does make it more comprehensible in the way that things become more comprehensible when the full picture is available rather than only the part of it that was showing at the surface during the time of the thing. Whew. Now, I want to speak about the powerful return, because it is in the title and it is connected to the apology, but it is not the same as the apology. And I want to speak to it separately so you understand what is coming in its full form. The return is powerful, not in the tentative and uncertain way of someone who is coming back without knowing whether they will be received or whether what they are returning to is still available to return to in the form it was in before they left, or did whatever produced the need for the apology powerful in the way of someone who is coming back with something new, something they did not have when they left or when the thing happened. That created the distance between where they are now and where they want to be, which is with you in the connection. That was disrupted by whatever happened, and that they are now returning to with the full accountability and the honest explanation. And something else that I want to name clearly, the something else is a changed person, not dramatically changed, not a transformation that would make them unrecognizable to anyone who knew them before, but changed in the specific and meaningful way of someone who has gone through something that taught them what they needed to learn about themselves and about how they operate in connection with someone they care about, and who has done the work of integrating what was learned into how they are, rather than only understanding it conceptually without it changing anything about how they actually show up. They are returning as the version of themselves that the previous version could not have been without what happened in between. And the in between, however difficult it was for both of you, produced this. The returning version, that is more capable of giving you what the connection was always meant to have than the version that existed before the in between happened. Now I want to speak about the great outcome, because that is what this all builds toward. And I want to describe it in the most honest and grounded terms I can, because great outcome is a phrase that can mean many things. And I want to give you the specific version that applies to this situation. The great outcome is not a perfected version of everything. That somehow transcends the human difficulty of two real people navigating a real connection after something difficult has passed between them. That is not what great outcome means here. The great outcome is a connection that has been tested in the specific way that things are tested when something goes wrong between them, and rather than producing a permanent ending, produces instead a reckoning, an honest conversation, a full apology, a return that carries something new, and a foundation that is more honest and more solid for having been tested and survived the testing, rather than a foundation that has never been tested and whose solidity is therefore still theoretical rather than proven. That is the great outcome. A connection that knows that it has been through something and is still here in the form of two people who chose to address it honestly rather than to avoid it, or to let the distance it created become permanent without ever fully naming what the distance was actually about. I want to speak to you now about what you need to receive this well, because receiving the mother of all apologies is not always as simple as it sounds when described from outside the moment. There are things that can complicate the receiving that I want to address directly, so you are prepared for them when they arrive. The first is the protective response, the part of you that has learned through whatever was done to be cautious about openings that have previously led to hurt, and that will want to manage the receiving of this apology from behind the protection rather than fully in the moment of it. Let the protection know that it is not needed in this specific moment, not permanently, just for the length of the apology itself. Let what is being offered actually reach you, rather than being received at arm's length by the managed version of you that keeps meaningful things from landing too close to the place they are meant to land. The second is the temptation to respond immediately with your own accounting of what was done and how it affected you and what you need from the apology to consider it sufficient. Let the apology arrive completely. Before you respond to any part of it, let it be said fully, in the form it has been prepared, over whatever time it has been being prepared, and receive the full version of it. Before you decide what to do with what you have received, the full version deserves to be heard. Before the response to any part of it interrupts the rest of it and limits what arrives to only what was said before the interruption, rather than everything that was prepared. And the third is the question of forgiveness and what you are expected to do with it in the moment of the apology. And after, you are not required to forgive immediately. You are not required to produce a specific response to a genuine apology on a timeline that serves the person offering it, rather than your own process of receiving what was offered and deciding what it means for you and for what comes next. What you are required to do is nothing other than receive it honestly and respond from your own truth in whatever form that takes, when you have had enough time to know what your truth actually is in response to something this significant. The mother of all apologies is coming. The powerful return is forming. And the great outcome is what these two things, in the context of two people who are genuinely willing to be honest about what happened between them and what they want to happen next, produce when they are given the space to do it without either person managing the other's experience of what is being offered. This is a significant moment in the arc of this connection and in the arc of your story as someone who has been through something that required something of you that not everyone would have given, and who is now on the other side of it, receiving something proportionate to what the going through required. Oh, get ready. Not by bracing, by opening the apology that is coming, deserves to land in the open version of you rather than the managed one. Let it land in the full and real form of something that was prepared with the full weight of genuine accountability and genuine care for you and for what exists between you. The outcome is great because the people involved are willing to be honest enough to produce a great outcome rather than a convenient one or a comfortable one or one that simply avoids the discomfort of the full reckoning that the situation requires for the outcome to be genuinely great. You are one of those people who is willing to be honest enough, and soon, so will they be